But,
Yeah.
we can't talk about normalcy. We can't talk about how life is without ingraining real estate, because everybody loves talking about real estate and where the real estate's at. And I remember at the start of the pandemic, people were talking about New York City, rents are falling. People are leaving New York in droves. Rents are the lowest ever. Commercial space is available like never before. Prices are dropping, on purchases. This is the kind of stuff we're hearing. So tell us now, how much of that was actually accurate, and where are rental actual prices like residential, commercial in general in New York these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2020, all of that was true. Rental prices were falling like crazy because everybody left. Everybody left. So landlords were just trying to get people in the building, right? So the landlord was agreeing to pay the broker fee. They were slashing rents, and people took advantage of that, and they should have. Like it was crazy how cheap some of these rents were. But man, now that is completely the opposite. Like I think Miami just passed us in rental prices. They just passed us because that's how much they went up. Like rental prices are so high right now simply because landlords need to make them, they got to recoup somehow, right? So
I got to tell you, I just come back to Miami, by the way, and look at Airbnbs in New York. Look at Airbnbs in Miami. Good grief! It is impossible to find a place to stay in Miami. You're there, you think that it's going out of style. Like it's amazing. Everybody's clamoring to be there. And I thought New York was expensive. Miami is at another level altogether.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy. I had a friend come in from Miami, and he was like, I went to a steakhouse. He was like, that exact thing cost me like $350. It would have cost me $1,000 in Miami. That's crazy. And I think, I don't know, but I know a lot of people left New York and went to Miami. So that could have, something to do with it. But
the weather is pretty incredible, especially in the winter over there, I will say.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where every New Yorker goes when they leave New York.
or maybe Arizona, but
yeah.
But otherwise, as far as from let's start with residential. So rental prices, have they stabilized? Are they back to pre-pandemic numbers or close to it?
They're higher than pre-pandemic.
They're higher.
Much higher, yeah.
Interesting.
Much higher than pre-pandemic for rentals. And as far as residential is concerned, you have to look at, in New York, you have to look at the different types of residential. You've got condos, co-ops, and single families. Okay, so the co-op space, they slowed down for a while. Okay. So we weren't seeing the price hike with co-ops like they were previously, and like we were seeing with single families, because everybody wanted more space, right? Because they didn't want the 1-bedroom co-op or 2-bedroom co-op because now they needed 2 offices and all this other space. So we really saw the price hike with mostly single families, and then luxury condos too. Excuse me. So single family homes, like they would get 30 offers in a weekend, and they would sell for their offers would be accepted 50 grand over list average, like all the time. So the thing about the low interest rates were great for people because it allowed a lot of people who could formerly not afford a home to now be able to afford a home. Okay, so that was great. The problem that you run into when that happens is, especially with this sort of flood of new buyers into the market, and you only have the same amount of homes for sale, drives prices up. And a lot of times first-time home buyers, they don't have as much cash, in the bank. They have like a minimum down payment and things like that. But when you're dealing with, $50,000 over list price, then you run into appraisal issues. And if the buyer doesn't have a lot of cash, then they can't cover the gap, things like that. So that's where it can be a little bit difficult. But, I hear a lot of buyers say, it's just too crazy. I don't want to be in the market right now. Well, yeah, it's crazy. But if you just stay in it, that people are buying and selling homes every day. It's crazy. So you just have to stay in it until you get yours accepted and get under contract, be patient. And, that's kind of what it's about, but it's been nuts. And we're in the beginning of a shift right now. So, which is good. and we all knew it was coming.
So tell us, because we know our shift in Canada here, and we know that the media is the sky is falling every day.
Yeah.
You know, interest rates are rising. It's a buyer's market. There's no more multi offers. There's no more bully offers. What's it like in New York now? What's the shift like for you?
Yeah, and we're just in the beginning of it,
Mhm.
in the beginning of it. So we're starting to see a higher number of homes for sale, which is great. With the higher interest rates, it is pushing people out of the market. So, you know, buyers are coming down. So, you know, if you're a homeowner, you've got equity in your home, you know, now is the time to sell. Don't wait. Otherwise you're gonna miss out on, you know, being able to sell your home for a significant amount of money. So, you know, that's what we're just starting to see right now. I think other areas of the country are seeing it happen faster, like Texas, but we're just starting, and it's going to be really interesting. And I think, like, everybody always wants to make it sound like the sky is falling and everything is going bad, but what they don't understand is, like, this happens all the time. It goes up and it goes down, and it goes up and it goes down, and you know, just expect it and learn how to maneuver, because you're never going to be able to to stop it.
I gotta tell you, like, I'm a couple years older than you, not much, but I remember being a kid and having GICs at 15%. Okay. So you can imagine what mortgage rates were like if your GIC was 15%.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So, but honestly, it's funny because I've read a lot of studies on that, and they're saying that back in the day when you're 70s, 80s, if you're buying a house, let's say for 50 grand and you're paying 20% in interest, you're way better off than buying the house for $1 million and paying 1.5% interest. But people don't
Yeah.
see that. They just know those
Yeah.
payments.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It is crazy, because I think a lot, and this is where, like, our job comes into play, and where we have to be knowledgeable and educate people, because they just see this either really high interest rate and they don't look at the overall picture. Like, how much am I actually paying in interest in 3 different scenarios? You know, if the interest rate goes up 2%, everybody freaks out. But, like, look at the property, look at the actual, like, the length, what's your term, you know, what's your loan terms and things like that. So, you know, just walking them through the process and making sure they see the numbers and can understand the numbers makes a big difference, you know, because property taxes has a lot to do with their payment too. And I have these conversations all the time, like, no, you can't afford that house. It's $15,000 in taxes. You know.
But what do you do with that buyer that comes to you and says to you, I really want to get in the market. I've always wanted to own in New York City. I've been renting forever, but I hear the market's starting to soften. Do I hold off? What do I do? What do you tell them?
Well, basically, what I do with all of my clients, they want to buy. We look at where they're at financially, like, you know, what's your credit? How much money do you have for down payment? What kind of a property are you wanting to buy? What kind of area are you wanting to look in? And then we determine, like, what they can afford based off of what they want, you know. And I think if you can be in the market, get in the market. If you need to purchase right now, start looking, because like I said before, the market's always changing. So trying to time the market is just not a wise thing to do. You have to do what's best for you and then make adjustments based on what the market's doing.
I'll throw you a couple of things as well, because as a real estate lawyer, this comes up all the time, and I'll tell them, listen, I'm not giving you business advice, but I'll tell you a couple of things. When that property would have had 30 offers, let's say, and right now they don't, and they'll actually put it in conditions even for you. You know what? You may not get this opportunity in a week, in a month. You don't know. And all of a sudden, because the weather's hot, people get all excited and horny for real estate, and they're like, okay, let's go buy right now. And you may be too late. You know, it's funny because I remember in early to mid 2020, I said to people, if you ever want to buy New York, get in right now. Don't hesitate. But people are like, no, it'll get worse. I'm going to hold out for another year. Waiting for that extra year, you could be sitting for a decade. And that property that you could have had for $1 million, now you're paying $2 million. But the other thing I find very interesting is, like this, you get in the market at any point. You probably started at a low price point. So now if you're going to sell and it dipped down, the thing you're going to go buy probably dipped down more. So you're still ahead. And guess what? If it went up, then the next thing you're going to buy went up too. But the difference is just get in.
Exactly. 100%. And I have this conversation too. Like every buyer consult I have, they give me this huge wish list, and I'm like, look, because I'm looking at their financial situation, I'm like, what you're wanting right now, you cannot afford. You can't afford your dream house, but it's more important for you to purchase something so you can build equity in that something. So that way, 5 years from now, you can sell it and buy the dream home. But people don't understand that. They're not they would rather pay rent for 5 more years and then still not get their dream home than buy something that's either maybe needs some work, or maybe is smaller than they're wanting, or maybe isn't in the perfect area. Then it's better to do that, to buy something, just like you said, get in the market, because you can play the game better if you're already in it. Like it's easier for someone who already owns a home than it is for a first-time home buyer to make a purchase. It just is, because you have money from the sale of your house, you have the equity as your next down payment.
Bingo. And listen to this. They're talking about New York City now, but you know what? This could be anywhere in the world, really. I think any market, this would hold, but especially in New York City. Like it's funny because there's only so much real estate, only so much land to go around. And that's one of the things I always argue when you're outside of New York. If you're like we are in Toronto and other major cities, you think prices are expensive here? Go look what the prices are in New York. You could probably buy 5 apartments here to what you'd buy there. So keep it in all perspective. When you're in a major metropolis, there's a reason why New York is New York, LA is LA, and Miami is Miami. Thank you for enjoying today's episode of the Chosen Life podcast. Go ahead and hit the subscription button below and the notification bell to catch all of our great shows. And remember to contact the Chosen Lawyers when you are ready for your next real estate and commercial transaction. Go to kormans.ca.